Good afternoon, LinkedIn. We are back. We have managed to get Ada and Sally's microphones working. This is our fourth Recruitment Hacks live show. And in this show, today's topic is overcoming challenges, how recruiters can kickstart their career in 2021. We're joined by Sally Spicer of Barclay Mead and Ada Offonry from Henlo Group. Henlo Group are one of our clients. I will get them to introduce themselves shortly, but they have both risen through the ranks in their recruitment career. They've both been incredibly prolific recruiters. They're now senior managers in their businesses, running, big teams. And one of the reasons I particularly wanted them both here today is because they are both careers coaches. At the start of the pandemic, for those of you who have been watching us week by week, many recruiters and recruitment leaders saw their desks and their businesses virtually disappear overnight. And one of the things we did at Ruella James was to hire two coaches to help us pivot our way out of it, to look at ourselves, first of all, as people, which is what we're going to focus on today, and also looking at ourselves from a business perspective. And for us, taking on a coach was a real game changer. So before we sort of go on to some advice that we're going to give recruiters and recruitment leaders today, Ada, would you like to introduce yourself? And we have got some people. So thank you, Claire, Francesca, Jamie, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Fire away.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Ruella.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So my name is Ada, and I do a number of things. First of all, I'm responsible for quantitative recruitment for the Henlo Group, for both the UK as well as the US as well. I am an executive career coach, so I work with professionals who are seeking clarity on the next move in their career. And I also host a podcast called The Career Lounge with Ada Offonry. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. And Sally, please share your story with us.
Share my story. I'm Sally Spicer. I've worked in recruitment for 20 years now. I specialise within finance and accountancy recruitment, but I work for a business called Barclay Mead, and I manage a few recruitment teams as well. But I've also founded a business called Scotch because I'm really passionate about the recruitment industry, the employment industry. I'm passionate about people's careers, and I founded Scotch to help people make those transitions or even just develop themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for introducing yourself. Before we start our conversation, I saw on LinkedIn last night a post by the wonderful Greg Savage, who we all know and love in recruitment. And I just thought it would be worth highlighting something that he said in this post. And in fact, I did send him an email and let him know that I was going to use it today, which he was very happy that I was. And he was talking about this. He said, right now, there are three types of recruiters. There are those who are superb, an influencer with high self-esteem. They get huge respect from their customers. They're passionate. They love their job. But he feels that less than 10% of recruiters actually feel this way right now, which I thought was quite interesting. Mm-hmm. And then he moved on to the second set. The second type of recruiter, he says, his words, completely sucks at their job. They suffer humiliation, rejection. They feel they're failing, that they're losing the battle. They're giving it everything that they can, but they hate the job. And more often than not, they leave recruitment and are thriving, doing something completely differently. And then the third type, which he puts most of us in this bracket, he says we're mediocre, a serial plodder. We suffer extreme highs and lows. We spend a lot of time blaming our clients, candidates, colleagues, but most of all our employers, sorry, my Siri's gone off on my phone, for their shortcomings. And what he says is this isn't a job that you can be average at, and that right now we need to step up, challenge ourselves, learn new skills and move up the value chain. And I thought that led us quite nicely on to our conversation today. And I know, we've been talking behind the scenes, and the first group of recruiters that we sort of really wanted to talk about first and foremost were those who have been on furlough for a period of time. Maybe they've been made redundant. Maybe they are just really feel a lot of uncertainty around what's happening in terms of their career. Sally, I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that yourself.
Are we talking about, people like furlough or redundancy?
Redundant, yes. What are your thoughts in terms of what they can be doing? You know, if right now what we should be doing is stepping up, adding more value to our own careers, developing that growth mindset, what can they be doing right now to help them get through the next few months? We know the government's extended furlough till April. There may be businesses who are taking advantage of this, obviously because maybe they can't bring them back right now. What can they be doing to help themselves?
I think first things first is take a step back. I think, we're living in a world at the moment where there's a lot of uncertainty. People do feel like they don't feel very stable. And I think that can really play havoc with someone's confidence levels. And also it's quite difficult to gain some clarity or a sense of direction when you feel like you're completely out of control.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to go into that downward spiral. So my advice would be to actually take a step back and think about, is this really, what do you want out of life? What, is it a career in recruitment, or is it an opportunity for you to pivot your career? And it's interesting because I'm actually coaching a lady at the moment who's worked in recruitment for 15 years. She's currently been furloughed. She's at home looking after the children and homeschooling. And she's a really, really successful biller.
Yeah,
she's had a real lack of engagement from the company that she's working for. It's really impacted her self-confidence, and it's also really impacted the loyalty that she feels towards that organisation, which, a year ago, if they'd split her in two, it would have had this company name through her veins. So I think it's important, if you're going through any journey, to stop and think about yourself, and also to think and remember, don't lose hope. It doesn't matter where you are in your career. It doesn't matter what, and this Recruitment Hacks is talking about overcoming challenges. The reality is, you've worked in recruitment, you've overcome challenges every single day of your working career. I mean, I had calls before, this of stuff. I'm on half term this week. I'm not even working, and this, stuff happens all the time. So just try and recenter and remember, you overcome challenges all the time. This is just the next part of your journey.
Yeah. Ada, anything you can add to that?
Yeah, so if people are currently on furlough, I think that they can certainly be proactive about staying in touch with their employers if there isn't already, a schedule in place. And so I think that that's something that they can do. And it's worth kind of understanding that both the companies you work for, the individuals that lead those companies, everyone is trying to figure out how to move forward in, with the coronavirus pandemic. So, do be proactive if you don't really feel part of the team anymore. And then the last thing I would just say is, think about what you can do to upskill yourself, right? So there's a lot on Coursera. There are a lot of podcasts. You can be reading some books. So, create a list of things that areas that you want to develop, and come up with your own kind of schedule to be able to do so while you're on furlough.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. I think if you are on furlough, having a routine of some sort, having a purpose every day, as you said, having that growth mindset is so important at this particular moment in time. And we have had lots of calls over the last few weeks from people who are on furlough, and they're feeling now that real disengagement from their businesses. They've been out for so long, and it does create, I think, that sense of insecurity and uncertainty that probably their bosses, their managers are not feeling, because they're in the thick of it, trying to get themselves out of what's been a really tough sort of 9 months or so. And, just sort of appealing to all recruitment leaders out there, if you do have people who potentially are going to be made redundant, make sure you put them on some sort of onboarding program, look after them. And obviously, if you are in a furlough situation, stick with it, have a routine. As you said, Ada, upskill yourself. I think that's really important right now. If you are going to be out on an interview, it is a question you're going to be asked. What have you done while you've been on furlough? Whether you've not been able to, whether you have or haven't been able to do something, is a question that's going to come up. And that leads me on to sort of that next category. And we're not quite following Greg's pattern, but our next category was really those individuals who perhaps were expecting a promotion before COVID. Things were flying. They were billing really well. And we know the best managers don't necessarily make the best billers don't necessarily make the best managers. But they might have been up for a promotion. They've gone back into their businesses. Their teams have been decimated. Any thoughts there as to how they get themselves back in that situation or that position, Ada?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you had promotional targets prior to the pandemic, and those have now been called into question, right? Because companies are still kind of reeling from the impact of the pandemic. I think there are a number of things that you can do. The first is to really have an open and transparent conversation with your boss.
Yes.
Right? So, let's not make any assumptions here about what is or isn't. Have an open conversation. Talk about what your goals are, and understand kind of what's happening as well from your boss's perspective. And that allows you to be able to create a game plan about how to kind of move forward. And I think the other thing that you can do as well is to really take this opportunity to identify how the world of work is changing, both within the recruitment industry specifically, but also within your client base. And, I think that we have a real opportunity for people to kind of step up as our role evolves in the marketplace. So perhaps there are things we can be doing to, engage our clients a bit more, to help the company come out of this period. And, I think that this is the time to come up with those ideas and to pitch those ideas to your bosses and to really kind of play your role in moving things forward. So those are two things I'd say. The last thing I want to leave people with is this. If the kind of schedule that you had set up for yourself isn't necessarily the same that currently exists as a result of the pandemic, just kind of take a step back and figure out another way to be able to move yourself forward. I've seen time and time again, the markets kind of go up and down, and the people that tend to be the most successful are those who can pivot when things don't particularly work out their way. So those are some of the things that I'd say if you find yourself in that position right now.
And that's some really good advice, because if people can't necessarily get what they want now, they're impatient. Sometimes they jump ship. They then go through this whole process of going on interview, and then they go back to their bosses, and then their bosses manage to come up with something. But maybe that's the first conversation they've had, is when they're handing in their notice. And I love the fact that you are saying to people, just be really proactive. Go and have those conversations. Make your boss aware that this is somewhere that you want to get back to, or you want to get to, and see what plan they can put in place to kind of help you get there. And I like the fact, I think you said sort of show what you can do. You said it slightly differently. In my day, we used to sort of create a brag book, a book of all the reasons why we should get that promotion. Backed up with sort of testimonials and everything else. Sally, anything you can add to that, because you've been through this journey yourself?
Absolutely. And I completely agree with what Ada said. The lots of the coaching clients that I work with, all these insecurities and anxieties come from the worry of having those open and honest conversations. And actually, when you do it, when you had the conversation, number one, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. And number two, it's by having those conversations and stating your intention that allows opportunity to present itself, It's having the conversation with your boss, or having your conversation with your mentor in the business to say, do you know what, I'm thinking about this, it might be about candidate attraction or whatever. And that's what sparks creativity. And I think we're not doing that because we're in the office at the moment, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be sat in your office or your kitchen table at home and think, this is what I want to run with. But moving aside from kind of, moving up a career ladder per se in terms of promotion, and I completely understand, team sizes have shrunk, billing potential and earning potential, whereas a lot of agencies or recruitment firms would say, you've got to hit X, Y, and Z in order to get promotion. That seems like a long way off at the moment.
Yeah.
We would attack this from a place of self-development and that journey of self-development. So it's not about that career progression. It's about how you can develop as an individual, because I don't think it's always about the end goal. I think it's about the journey. And I think lots of things that you can be doing that don't cost any money. There's loads of stuff on LinkedIn Learning. There's loads of stuff on Open University that you can do as modules in your own time that will start this kind of self-discovery journey, really, in terms of, but everything you're learning is going to help you towards progression in the right direction. And I think also once you scratch the surface of this stuff and make that intention to think, right, this is what I'm going to do, you'll be amazed about the online communities that you can become involved in. And there are so many people out there doing exactly this. I mean, this is how we met, it's you meet like-minded people, you encourage each other, you find out about new courses, new coaches that you can work with, what enhancement they can have in your life and career. So I just think, start the journey. Don't worry about the promotion, just start the journey anyway.
I had a question at the beginning, which I didn't ask you both, but something I think is really important right now. Why would somebody look at taking on a career coach, working with a career coach? What can you add to their journey? And I'm sure it's a lot, but I've not really experienced it myself. Why would somebody want to work with a coach right now, Ada?
So there are a few reasons, right? So if you think about it, we have so much choice when it comes to our careers, or at least the illusion of choice. And sometimes that can be quite crippling to people. Because there's so much in front of you and you kind of don't know what direction to go into. So by working with a coach, what you have is a neutral space, right? With no agendas, where you can basically sit down and work through what actually matters to you. You can identify what your strengths are. You can gain clarity on what your purpose is and what your actual personal and professional goals are. And you can then co-create a strategy to help you achieve those goals. So a career coach provides a number of things for you, and they provide support, they provide structure, they provide accountability. But fundamentally, it's about having that space to be able to kind of work through where you are, what you want to do, and, help you come up with a strategy so that you can get there. Coaching is fundamentally about looking at where you are in the present and how you can move forward in the future to accomplish all of your goals. So
I love that.
A career coach helps you do.
And Sally, I know you have a sort of signature course that you've been running. Can you just tell us a little bit about it, just to give people a sense of the positives that they're going to get from something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two, really. I'll talk about one maybe now, because it's one that I've been running a lot recently. I had 2 people sign up to it yesterday, and then there's another one which is more kind of career development that we can potentially talk about later on. But the one, it's a 3-stage course. So the first one is doing exactly what Ada said. It's really tapping into taking a step back and thinking about you as an individual, your purpose, your why, identifying what their strengths are. And a lot of people come to coaches when their confidence probably isn't at the peak. It's really kind of rebuilding all of that resilience, all of that stuff which you feel like you need to move forward. That's what a good coach will help you do. The second one is all about goal setting. So it's identifying what that goal is. Is it a career pivot? Is it a career progression? Is it, like I said, a self-discovery and building up on your toolkit, figuring out what that goal is, and then putting together again lots of different tools and exercises to make sure that that goal is the right one and it's going to be achievable. And then the last session is all about planning. So what resources, how you're going to know if you're going to be successful, what we can put in place to make sure that happens. Again, that accountability piece. So just lots of direction, really. And at the end of it, people go away thinking, some people come to me and they think they haven't got a clue. Sometimes the people don't know why they even come into a coach, which is fine. I've been in coaching sessions before with my coach and gone, I'm not really sure what we want to talk about today, but it's just having that opportunity and space to talk to someone completely impartial. And I think when you work with an organisation or work for an organisation for a long time, you have all these assumptions in your head. You second guess what Jim's going to say in accounts. Whereas when you work with someone externally, they can put a different view on it and say, it's just far more an objective conversation and opportunity to grow and develop. So that's the one I'm doing a huge amount of at the moment, because I'm working with people who are furloughed. I'm also working with people who have gone back to work and gone, this isn't for me. I need this. Last year's made us all sit back and think about what we want out of life. And yes, I'm working with a lot of people who are making a career pivot. I'm working with some women actually who are setting up side businesses, which is just fantastic. So yes,
and in fact, we've all got a side business. You know, I'm looking at my business coaching. Ada's got her executive career coaching. You've got your coaching business. It's really very, very fulfilling, and that's just great advice. And I just really wanted to highlight that to our audience, because if you haven't thought of having a coach in any way, shape or form, whether it's business or career coaching, all the top elite athletes have a coach. And every day they are looking to improve that 1% that might make the difference. If you think about, 100 meters, that 1 second just could make a massive difference between you being number 1 or number 3. The timelines are just so tight, and it's the same for us. So no, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And then finally, we were going to look at consultants. We've probably covered this already, but they're in their role right now. They're probably really good steady billers, or they excel. They don't want that sort of management route. We've all been talking about different routes they can go down and different things that they can be looking at. But for me, it was very much about developing that sort of growth mindset. Ada, anything that you can add? If someone's in a role now, they don't necessarily just want to do the job, they want to add in other ways. What are some of the ways that you would be looking at with your teams right now if they wanted just that bit more than just to go in there and just make money every day?
Okay. So, I mean, the first thing is to put your mask on, right? So let the main thing be the main thing. So if your job is to bill, then it's important that, you have that lockdown and you've created a system that works for you in terms of your billing. So that, I think that's number one. And ultimately, if we're in recruitment, that's where your credibility sort of arises from, right? Fundamentally. But I think that it's back to the point I made earlier. You can basically take a look at, where your company is and what some of the needs of the company are. And if you're not sure, then speak to some of your peers and speak to your boss, right? And you'll get an idea of some of the areas that the business needs support. And so that's one thing. The second thing is definitely, keep your ear to the ground. So read industry publications, read publications that are to do with your market so that you can understand the bigger picture and how your company fits into that. And then the last thing is really kind of looking at, the evolution, if you like, of the industry. Or the third thing I should say is the evolution of the industry, right? We're doing things today like this, right, that we probably wouldn't have done in the industry 5-10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's allowing yourself to learn some of these new skills and evolve with the times. But then finally, anticipate the needs of your clients as well, right? So I know that from my interaction with a lot of our clients, investment banks and hedge funds, I've been able to identify core themes in areas where I know we can add value in addition to actually fill in the seats that they have vacant. And so when you put all of these things together, in addition to your individual areas of interest and your individual areas of skills, you'll be able to identify opportunities where you can add value in addition to your billing. And it might not be clear initially, but you can just start by brainstorming some ideas, right? Based on all of those things. And, maybe you can get advice. You can work with a coach. As we've talked about here, you can talk to your boss. You can talk to your mentor or sponsor if you have those, or even your peers, and begin to come up with ideas as to where you can add value. But there's a lot out there if you know what to look for.
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. The way the recruitment industry is evolving is phenomenal. It's exciting. And gone are the days when we are now just recruiters. Gone are the days where our role is to sit and work and fill jobs. There is so much we have to offer, and any good recruitment firm wanting to develop their staff, my advice would be find out what they're passionate about. Is it the BD? Is it the social media? Is it the candidate journey and the candidate attraction? Is it new recruitment technologies? I mean, we've just taken on video interviewing, Odro, which has been great. Is it personal branding and whether they can help their peers build their personal brands. There's something that you as an individual are going to be really, really passionate about, that your recruitment business needs you to be excellent at. And gone are the days where we are developing people's careers based on how much they bill. To me, that is one type of person, because there's only ever a few, isn't there? That's one type of person in any business. But the world genuinely is your oyster. So find out what you're good at, have these conversations like Ada said, and be passionate about it, and actually develop your own career based on what you're good at and what you're passionate about, that is going to enhance the business that you're working for, because they need your skills.
Yeah, and it's all about playing to our strengths. I mean, I think if we've been in recruitment for a long time, even a short time, as Ada said, lock down the main bit, which is making money, because obviously at the end of the day, that's what you're employed to do. But if there is extra value that you can add to your career through, perhaps, for us, it's been that personal branding journey. This is all part of our personal branding journey. And I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting here now interviewing you guys over a live stream through LinkedIn. It's really just quite bizarre that we've managed to do this today, because obviously we had some challenges this morning. And I think it just goes back to what Greg was saying in the post I read last night, just adding value to your colleagues, your peer group, your business, your clients. That's really what I think is going to get you through. And if you've got that growth mindset, then you're going to be really, really successful in that. And then I'm sorry, Sally.
Just on that point, I think all the peripheral stuff that everyone does that's going to be playing into their strengths is going to result in revenue. It's just not about filling that job. It's the long game, which I think in recruitment we're not always that good at, because we work in such a reactive business. We have to think about that growth mindset. We have to think about the long game and 12, 18 months in advance, as opposed to what's happening on your desk today, in order for us to evolve.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you, for that. Those really insightful comments there. I just wanted to give some ideas to consultants out there. If perhaps career coaching is not your thing, there are a number of resources that I've seen on the internet, and I'm just going to sort of just call out a few names here. A shout out to Jeremy Snell, Hisham Azuz, Ali Braid and Joe Gregory, who all have platforms where consultants can pay a monthly subscription so that they can then get some useful tips and tricks, whether it be around business development or personal branding or launching a podcast. As you said, there are so many resources out there. Ada was referring to her podcast earlier. There are lots of podcasts out there. There's lots of places where you can get some advice or some resources if you just want to keep upskilling yourself. If you feel that you want to do that deep dive with a career coach, I'm sure you're happy for anyone to reach out to either of you. And I think I know Sally and Ada would be more than happy to do a session with anyone who feels that they need some extra help or support. If you do, please put a comment in the box to say if you'd like to do a one-to-one with either of them. Just pop a comment. I call it the comments box, but I know it's the chat box. In the chat box, and let me know whether you want some more support there. And then the final thing is really, what are recruitment business leaders doing to support their staff through these times? And we were just going to kind of finish off on that note, really. We speak to recruiters every day who are having challenges in their businesses. Some of the stories I hear really are surprise and disappoint me, to be completely honest with you. There are many roles out there, so you can't afford to lose that talent at the moment. And I know that you're both recruiting yourselves, and you've seen the challenges of recruiting staff in an uncertain marketplace. So we've all got to do our best, not only to recruit the best staff, but to retain the team that we have in place at the moment, or we'll just be backfilling and none of us will be scaling again. We are part of a group called Elite Leaders, and in Elite Leaders we have a company called Signet, and again I was just happened to pop into my inbox last night. They have an ebook called Why Upskilling Your Team Will Be Critical for the Next 12 Months. And I think that's sort of what we've all been talking about. But if you had some final words, Ada, you are a business leader in a firm that's scaling and growing both in the UK and in the US. what advice would you be giving your senior leadership team in terms of what they need to do to support and retain your existing talent right now?
Yeah. So yeah, we are definitely scaling significantly, both here in the UK and also in the US. I think the first thing is that as a leadership team, we're all aligned. And I think that that's important for people to kind of understand that the company's moving in a specific direction. But some of the things that I think business leaders need to do in order to attract and retain staff include, number one, I think in this day and age, it's important that you have a clear social stance, right?
Yes.
So gone are the days of neutrality. I think it's people want to know what you stand for, who you stand for, and what causes matter to you. And so I think that that's really important. The second thing is that I know that as a leadership team, we're really committed to diversity, inclusion, belonging, and respect.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is so important. That is a whole subject on its own that we will cover. But thank you for saying that, because it's been proved that teams are more successful if there is that diversity within that business.
Absolutely. I think it's important that people visually see that there is that there are a diverse group of people across all levels within a business. In addition to a diversity of thoughts. So welcoming different approaches to doing the same thing. So I think that that's really important, and people want to see that.
I love that.
The other thing is that people want to see what causes you're aligned with, right? What your CSR initiatives are, and how active the whole organization is. So this isn't just about raising money and giving money, but it's about how that basically ties into the beliefs of the company as a whole. So those are some of the things I know that are important. But on a sort of micro level, it's about how, we have a structured training program that people can go through. People work autonomously and have the opportunity to become experts in their own respective fields. And I talk a lot about people becoming famous in their markets, right? So, the clients get to know you, the candidates get to know you, you get to be known for being an expert in a particular area, but also having scope to progress as you see fit. So whether that's down the billing route or that's down the leadership route, all the people on our team in the US started in the UK. And they had aspirations to move out to the US, and those aspirations were met. So I think it's important that, leaders understand what the goals of their consultants are and are able to sort of provide opportunities for development and advancement, however they see fit within the parameters of the organization.
That's just great advice. You said so many amazing things. I thought the bit about being famous in your space. I love that. Absolutely. I think that's where we sort of all wanted to aspire to be at the beginning of our careers. We wanted to be that person that our clients and candidates would come to. And I think, yes, particularly if you're working in a niche market, that's so achievable. I love that, Ada. Thank you. And Sally?
I just
remember the question.
I do. I just wanted to say thank you so much for saying all of that, Ada, because genuinely, I just think, it was really important topics that you brought up there. And I think they are, really, really good conversation starters for anyone listening to this who wants to go back and think, okay, where do we go from here? So I think, all of those things are really, really important. My advice would be for the leaders to ask their staff what they want. I think if this last year has taught us anything, it's that we can be agile. We don't have to fit into the mold that we fit into before. Ask their staff what they want, have that open communication, because when you're then trying to attract new staff, that's what people are going to sign up to. They're going to sign up to working in an agile, forward-thinking business. They're not going to sign up to someone who's clock watching them, micromanaging them. I mean, I know that you get a lot of I hear a lot of R2R chat in terms of what consultants are actually having to endure at the moment. You just got to be a bit nicer and a bit more inclusive. So I think so my advice would be to also, and it's something that we kind of spoke on the phone yesterday, don't wait for Boris to make his announcement to roadmap yourself and your business, out, into more of a recovery. Do it now. If you are thinking about bringing back your staff in the furlough end, you need to be engaging with them now. You need to be developing them now. We haven't spoken about the, apprenticeship levy for the last 12 months. It's been put on the back burner. It's a huge incentive for companies to not spend any money, but to develop their staff, because it's going to take, and we've seen it from some of the staff that were furloughed early on and then brought back. It's not an instant impact that's going to have on the organisation in terms of revenue. So anything that you can be doing to prepare people to come back to work now and feel amazing about themselves is, time and energy well spent in my eyes.
Great advice. I mean, I wrote a few things down myself. People want development. They want to be appreciated. They need you to be flexible. They need you to have realistic expectations. Don't wait. Don't tell them, as you said, Sally, ask them what they need, what they want. We can work this out. I'm interviewing for Ruella James at the moment. I've got a fabulous candidate. She needs that little bit more from us as a business if we are to take her on. And I'm open to it. I'm open to anything right now because the war for talent is huge. So what we're saying here is retain and make sure that you are a company that's fit for purpose in this new post-COVID world. It's been amazing for our industry. Let's be completely honest here. At the time, it felt awful, but I think we've all come out of this more resilient, stronger, better businesses, better people, more human. That human touch is so important right now. And I just cannot thank you enough for being here with us today. Thank you so much. So if you are still here watching us, we really appreciate you being here. It's obviously was a little bit tricky at the beginning today, but thank you again so much. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I look forward to seeing everyone again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ruella. Thanks, Sally. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.